Okay, I'm Jeaneen Stevens. I'm from Lorain, Ohio. Born and raised, 50 years old. Life's been a challenge all my life.
Sure.
But I'm still smiling.
That's it. That's it. Why don't we talk about, before we kind of get into the whole, your past, your story, as we're interviewing you today, why don't we talk about some of the stuff we kind of touched on earlier, like what was life like for you, like growing up? How did you find yourself, in the position that you did when you eventually, went to prison? What was that process like?
Well, I was 6 years old, as far back as I can remember, watching the abuse of relationships. My mother it would be different men after my father walked out. She had 6 children. Both of my sisters were pregnant at 13 and 14 after my father left. She only did what she knew how. Sure. She was 14 from Tennessee. Sure. He was from Mississippi. Sure. So we kind of was doomed from the start. So then watching her alcohol progress. Never really was much of a drinker because of that, although I turned to drugs. Had to find an escape, I thought, at that time before I was introduced to the Lord. So I watched until the age of 11, when she got to the point where when her boyfriends were molesting me, it didn't matter anymore. She'd turn her head. So I kind of felt from that point on that it was hopeless, that nobody cared. Finally, one day I'll never forget it. My mother always seemed down, so I always tried to make her smile. This lady was ordering flowers for some occasion, and somehow or another I got the account number, and I ordered my mom like $300 worth of flowers and sent them to her, and she wasn't happy. I got a whooping.
Kind of reverse, huh?
Yeah, but they charged me with petty theft at the age of 12. So that was kind of my mom's way of letting go of me, I think, because the abuse, she couldn't, I was raised in bars, sitting right next to her all the time. And then I ended up in the detention home. And then I was just talking about this with my sister last night, the day my father looked at me when I asked if I could go live with him. And I was in the detention home being detained, and all I needed was a place to go. And he was like, you could, but that woman, which was my stepmother, she is not going to hear it. And, I was like, wow. So then they made me a ward of the state, and I ended up in GVS, Scioto Village, Rosemont School for Girls, Child Study Center, until I was 18.
So, as a juvenile, you found yourself in and out of juvenile hall, that whole thing. You said until you were 18. Mm-hmm. We were actually in Scioto just recently.
You were?
Yeah, we still go down there. Now, it's not all girls anymore. They still have girls down there, but it's girls and guys, obviously separated.
Wow. So what about Riverview? That used to be across the street. No, Riverview.
Riverview, yeah, they closed that one.
Okay.
Yeah, they closed that one.
Okay.
So we go down there regularly, actually. I'd love to take you down there, too.
I would love to go.
That'll be a little memory.
I would love to go.
Dublin, Ohio.
Yeah.
So, you turn 18. Where does life take you from there?
Well, I got my own apartment that the state paid for, and then I started working little waitressing jobs, and stayed in contact with one of the foster mothers who was real good to me. She treated me so good that we stayed in contact, and then I met my children's father, and they were smoking weed, and I was never really much into the drug scene or the alcohol scene because I seen what it did for whatever reason.
With your own mother.
Right, for whatever reason, I didn't want any part of it.
Sure.
But then I felt peer pressure.
Right.
Everybody else is doing it, and it kind of looks like fun, So I started, and then was with him for 10 years. He didn't work. He was an alcoholic, so I found myself. He wasn't abusive.
Sure.
Because I think when I watched my mother get beat up so many times from so many different men, that I knew then and there that no man was going to put their hand on me. And so, and now, even now at 50, you know, I get that tough guy,
Sure.
you know, oh, you're tough. And it's not about being
It's
tough.
about survival for you.
Right, it was.
Yeah.
It was then. And now I realize I don't have to be so tough.
Sure.
But that only came through the grace of God. And because now I'm covered.
Sure.
I don't have to worry about who's coming behind me. I don't have to worry about my next step anymore or where it's going to come from, because my God is true and faithful. And I believe that He has a plan for me, in spite of what I saw in my past. So I got involved with someone who started buying me jewelry, taking me nice places, buying me nice clothes. So I never had that before. No one paid attention to me. So here's this person.
Sure.
And it was kind of, now that I look back on it, it was like him, you know, the fishing thing, you know. He was, what I call them today is baiters. They use you until they get what they want, and then now you're hook, line, and sinker. What do you do? So I ended up 22 having my third child by him, and we started selling cocaine. Well, he was already into it. That's where all the money was coming from. Before I knew it, I was doing lines, and then all this was all messed up from doing so much of it. I finally started smoking it. And then I started stealing from the stores because, see, both of us couldn't have a habit, and him support his habit and him support mine too.
There's only so much coke.
Right. So I started stealing. Yeah, I started stealing from the stores. I was good at it. I'm not even gonna lie. Really never got caught till I tried to run and they charged me with robbery. Never had a gun, never hurt anybody, just he grabbed my arm and I pulled, and that they charged me with robbery. That's when they changed the law that you could be charged with robbery if you tried to flee. So I did that twice, didn't learn the first time. Yeah, I tried it twice, and then they got him. My own niece came in my house wired for the police. And but see, I had a habit, so could nobody go to him unless they went through me, because I was getting inside that bag.
Sure.
So they couldn't never get him because I had always intervened.
Right.
So they got me, thinking I would tell, but this man is all I knew.
Sure.
Nice home, nice car, nice clothes, my kids are taken care of.
Sure.
I couldn't tell on him. I was loyal. And I ended up getting 11 to 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I did 8.5.
What year was that?
96.
96. So 8.5 years.
I got out in 2005.
Wow. What was that like? I mean, being arrested, going in, having all that happen like that.
It wasn't real.
Yeah.
It was like I was outside of myself.
Take a while for that to set in.
In fact, it took 4 years sitting on the bench at Northeast Pre-Release, watching the cars on the freeway, knowing that I'm not getting bonded out.
Right.
I can't go anywhere. I'm here. And at first, the first 4 years, you know, when you have no support on the outside, the money, you know, you need things, shampoo, you know, I mean, it's just the same way in there as it is out here. You have to survive.
Sure.
So I started running a store, doing 2-for-1s, and got caught a couple times doing that. Finally, you know, I still went to church though. I still believe that my God had a plan. Finally, one day, it was so hot, I'll never forget it. It was so hot, and I just got so tired of the same results over and over. Finally, I just decided to do all the programming that was offered to me there. There had to be a way. There was no way on God's green earth that I came this far and survived all of that without there being a plan.